Hi, this is Lada from Astrolada.com, and today I'm here with healer and psychic Angelic that you know already from the channel. Hi, Angelic.
Hi, Lada. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, Angelic, for actually bringing quite a painful topic because now it's the festive season
Mhm.
uh, and everyone is getting ready to celebrate, to have fun, to get excited. But it's known statistically that the biggest number of depressions and even suicides happen
Yes.
on the holidays and Christmas, right?
hmm
Especially due to heartbreak, to grief. And you want to talk about heartbreak and grief,
Yeah.
actually, now. And we're going to discuss in this podcast, video, blog, these painful topics because Angelique wanted, she's noticed that recently so many people are going through heartbreak. Can you tell us a little bit why you decided actually to do this interview with me and also to do a healing ceremony and webinar that's happening on the 22nd, was it? On the 22nd
hmm
December,
Yes.
exactly before Christmas, for people who are going through pain and grief and heartbreak, which I've also been seeing. Astrologically, Venus was retrograde in Scorpio. I just came back in Scorpio, and so many people were breaking down, or like Angelique said, grieving things. So,
hmm
yeah, so we're coming out of that phase, astrologically speaking, a very painful Venus in Scorpio retrograde,
hmm
starting to come out of its shadow now. So it's time to heal and lick our wounds. So can you tell us a little bit why?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just to give people some background, I've been a healer for over a decade now. So that's my specialty. But with the internet, I think the Christmas season is just, or if you celebrate the holiday season, is a perfect time because you're correct. It's a high depression rate, high suicide rate. People use a lot more, they're more addictive. So alcohol or drugs, this time to kind of cope with it. But I did notice with my clients, especially after this Venus retrograde, and not just breakup, this is for anybody going through grief, but it's been a really hard time. Someone could have gone through a breakup earlier in the year, but they're grieving their old self, they're grieving dreams, they're grieving an old way of life. A lot of people are really trying to change and move forward in their lives, whether it's with their career, with their family, or with their health. But a lot of people are so stuck. We're so stuck and attached to ideas. And believe it or not, the grief process doesn't always have to be with a person. It's something that we hold dear to ourselves, and it has the same steps. And I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people out there have been through grief, but it's the same thing as coming off of a drug. It's a detox. It really is a detox. We lose our appetite. We can't sleep. Some of us get the shakes. And we feel very alone, very victimized. And I really wanted to do this session, one, because of the Venus retrograde, and two, because of the holidays. And even though we know mentally we're not the only ones that have gone through it, people go through it all the time, we feel very isolated and we don't have the same tools and tips. And around the holidays, it can be tight with money. So I wanted to do a webinar that you can keep, that we can do together. This is actually an interactive webinar. It's not something I'm just telling you and then you go off and practice. No, we're gonna be doing it together. If you guys sign on, there's gonna be some things I need you to bring along. I'm gonna be teaching you what to do, how to do it. We're gonna do it together. I'll answer some questions and we're going to release. We're gonna step forward so we can start just taking action. I think a lot of the reasons people don't heal is we're constantly in a state of anxiety when we're in grief. That heart palpitates, we can't breathe. And there's no way, it's very difficult to take any steps, whether it's going to the gym, going to your therapist, or just getting out of bed when you have that kind of anxiety. So my whole point is to help cut cords, let's remove the anxiety, let's ground that out so we can actually take action steps, just to get us one step closer.
Mm-hmm. And is this how you're describing it? I'd like to be part of this as well.
Yeah.
How you're describing it, it has a bit of a mystical side to it because are you gonna do like distance healing, or are you gonna show how people to
Do it
how?
something else? Yeah, we're going to be doing a couple different things. So it's going to be very interactive. So I wouldn't suggest you guys rushing away. Number one, healing has a detox symptom. So if you guys have like a party to go to afterwards, maybe watch it later. So first things first, we're going to, and that's just the thing, a good healer is someone who teaches someone how to heal themselves. So we're going to be doing the tools together. So we will be grounding out, we'll be cutting cords, we'll be clearing chakras. There is some, I like the word mysticism to it, because we will be doing some work that involves candles, it involves mantras, it involves invoking. And I want everyone to know this is not religious. This is you could be atheist. It doesn't matter. This is just about having faith in yourself and your energy. Energy follows intention. And that includes healing, that includes releasing. And that's what I'm teaching you what to do. As a Reiki practitioner, Reiki does require attunements, but I'm still going to teach you healing things we can do with our own body and our own hands to help move the energy through. So yes, I will be teaching that, and I'll be helping people do it as they go. So if people have questions, I can answer them and we'll move through. So yeah, that's why I'm having people bring some things. You're going to be bringing pen, you're going to be bringing paper, you're going to be bringing candles, one candle, unless you want to work on more things. Water and I'll ask people, you could bring more to it, but those are going to be my basic tools. But yes, it's interactive. It does require you to be open. And it's nothing negative. It's nothing that's going to go against any morals or values. We're not like hurting any animals, not ever me. We're just going to be working with our energy, so I can teach you how to do it and we can move this out. We will be doing some EFT as well, which is called emotional freedom technique, to reroute the cortisol moving through the body. So it can be a very emotional experience, but very cathartically releasing.
Beautiful. So it's kind of scientific also. It's
Yes.
not so much mystical and religious as you said. Those objects, candles and things that we're using, they're there to focus intention and to
Exactly.
focus our thought, basically, to concentrate
Yes.
our thought. Maybe that's why spiritual and religious rituals, they always carry some object, because we're material beings and that helps us. A lot of positive things for humans, so they focus on something material as well. And so
yes, absolutely. And candle work, I call it candle work, is very effective. I give it to a lot of my clients. I'm thinking I'm just going to teach it so everyone can do it. It really helps manifest. Now, some people want to just not go through the grieving process, and I wish I knew how to do that, but there is no way to avoid it. But there is a way to accelerate it. So but it does take responsibility on the person. So no one, I mean, you can go to as many healers, astrologers, psychics as you want, and I'm so happy we can be there to support. But at the same time, people have to take a level of responsibility to just put some of those things into action to get it moving. So that's what I'm helping you to do. Like, I'm gonna sit here with you and I'm gonna get you moving through this, because this is the hardest part. So once we get the ball rolling, it should be a lot easier from then on out.
And does this include usually, is it actually a good sign when you're grieving, when you start actually bawling and crying
Yes.
and so we shouldn't try to stifle this when we're going through a grieving process?
No, not at all. I don't understand why. I know I have a lot of people that are like, they feel that it's strong, but actually vulnerability, being able to feel the pain, takes a lot more courage. And it's scary. It's scary to be vulnerable, and but once you cry, that's why you feel so good after you cry. It's called energy transference. So you're taking the pain and you're transmuting it into something else, and at least it's leaving the body. That's why journaling is so effective. It's not a diary. I don't care if you write F word, F word, F word, F word. You're just moving the energy from the body to another physical object. And that's what we're doing. I tell people, don't do dear diaries. Just be like, I'm so pissed right now. Write everything out and then burn it or do whatever you want with it. But we need to do energy transference to move it out of the body.
And basically, one of the most unhealthy things we can do is try to basically avoid the pain. Just like a lot of people, they break up with someone, they start going out, partying, getting drunk, trying to get distracted, trying to get laid, and this pain gets bottled. And what happens?
Yes, it's actually worse. And it doesn't matter. When you come home, you're just going to pick up where you left off. And we talked about this in our webinar at the beginning of the year. Even if you've gone through a breakup, and I feel you, it's painful, it feels like death. But if you go out and meet anybody else, that person will be a vibrational match to where you're at. So not a healthy partner. Some people try to fill that void. You cannot do it. You cannot do it with anything else. And if that's what you do, everyone has their process and their evolution. The best thing to do is to really be around supportive people. And I know you want to be distracted, you want to just not think, but you have to. You're going to have to sit in it. At some point, it's going to have to happen, and it's good for you. It's good. It's just part of the process so we can get onto the other stages of anger and focus. It's
and I think this Venus that is still in Scorpio, but now direct, and it's moved out of this retrograde pain. And Scorpio is about basically like a surgical operation of the soul. Scorpio is about cutting cords, and Venus is relationships and heartbreak and self-love. It's not only about, and it's about the things that Venus is the things that we really attach to, that we think we love, but Scorpio is the sign of death and rebirth, and it wants to free you from those, as you said, even it might be lifestyles that you attach to, that you're grieving through. And now this Venus forward, moving out of its shadow period, will very much help people do that, and it will be still there in Scorpio when you're doing the webinar. So I think it's very healing energy. Also, Trifon Nikolov said that around that time, Mercury will be in extremely healing degrees, which happens because he doesn't know when next it's going to happen again, of stopping an addiction, of healing from some pain. And definitely the Scorpio sign, when Venus is, it's extremely supportive of Scorpio, is a sign where sudden miracles and releases from trauma can happen, where sudden 180 degrees turn around. You feel one day like that, and actually, just in Scorpio, it can happen that when there are planets there, or or that are activated collectively for anyone, that you can move from one state of consciousness to another overnight. Because usually grieving is a very long process for many people.
Yes.
And sometimes you feel like I'm done. It's been 1 year, I've been grieving for this or that. When is it going to happen? There is a rare opportunity now to do the switch with the Scorpio energy. And a special technique to get these things moving. I have another question for you. You said it's good to grieve, to let it all out. When is it becomes, when does grieving and letting it all out becomes harmful?
Yeah, so a lot of
grieving too much.
Yes, and everyone's different, but I find it's when you step into archetypes, when you start victimizing yourself or martyring yourself. You have to have awareness around this. And I always tell all my clients, I know this might not sound organic, but when it comes to the grieving process, I tell people, if you know you're somebody who can language in this and you come very low, I actually...
Sorry, it's interrupted. Can you repeat again?
Yeah, no problem. I always tell my clients, if you find that this is something that you tend to get like a snowball effect, when you're sad, you get into depression. Remember, the first things I always tell people, give yourself a time period. So like if you're going to be sad and crying, don't judge it. Just make sure that, this is what I do personally. I'm going to give myself an hour and I'm just going to cry it out. And then after that, I'm going to step out of it. At some point, whenever you start standing in any archetype, if it's a victim archetype, like this always happens to me, why me? There must be something wrong with me. Or, I'm sacrificing myself for their happiness. When it hits that, you need to stop. Now we're just getting deeper and deeper. This does take a level of awareness. And this is why I always tell people, when you're going through any kind of grief, don't do this alone. Don't ever do this alone. Whether you have a support group, a healer, a counselor, or a therapist, because we're not balanced, we're not grounded. But that's a sure sign. That's when you've passed it up. It's different when you're crying and you're just in pain. It's just acute pain. But after a while, there's this inner voice that's just like, why me? Or this always happens to me, or I'm not pretty enough, good enough, healthy enough, something like that. Archetypes, stop. You've hit your limit, because now you're just feeding the ego at this point. So nothing wrong with it, and everyone's duration is different. That's why there's no 1 month, 2 month, everyone's different. That's a sure sign of, now it's not even about the pain, it's about me, feeding my ego or my old ideas, my old belief systems. Stop. You need help at that point.
Actually, quite addictive. I remember being through grieving, heartbreak periods, and I remember first just really hurting, and then I got addicted to that intense pain almost. And I sit in front of the mirror and watch myself and try to make myself cry and feel sorry for myself. And I was looking forward to those moments when everyone would leave, so I can mope around and listen to sad music, close the windows. I know I started drinking even then.
Yeah.
It's that's one thing that sometimes people get addicted to, that it gives you, it's a weird, twisted, masochistic kind of pleasure. I can't explain.
Yes, exactly what you're talking about.
After the initial shock, when it's pure grief, and that's when you say it's healthy to let it all out. But after that, it's something that takes you on and I used to love to perpetuate that.
There is such thing as cortisol addiction. So we know these people as drama people, drama queens, drama kings. People that they'll, with all their honesty, they'll say, I don't want drama in my life. I really don't. I don't know why it happens. But we actually get cortisol addiction. So we get addicted to the stress hormone. So the moment that our body is detoxing from it and not having it, it will kick something up. We'll think of sad memories. We'll think of pain again. We'll pick fights just to get our fix. There is such a thing, and that's another reason we need a detox. That's another reason why this is good, because it's normal. It happens. I've done it. You've obviously done it. But it needs to be stopped. And it does have detox symptoms. So you're going to feel, loneliness. You're going to feel these spaces of loss. But just like when you come off caffeine or alcohol, it's the same thing. Just got to detox.
that takes willpower. Or that takes having had enough. Like that's usually when you can quit something, when you've just had enough. And
That's why tools are so good. That's why learning these techniques are so good. EFT is amazing for reducing the cortisol. So we need that, because willpower sometimes is not enough. It just isn't enough because it's coming from you. So you need something outside of yourself to help, to focus it, to assist it along. Especially if you don't have all the money to see a healer or therapist all the time. You can do this for yourself. Putting the power back into your hands and not surrendering it out to somebody else or a circumstance.
And breaking the negative self-narrative.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, or that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There are people that are constantly in not intense grief and heartbreak, but in a kind of a semi-sad state, and even they have forgotten what the reason is. They just have a low vibration of dissatisfaction, or it's or self-sorry. Maybe that's in a narrative. And could it be sometimes that it's even past lifetimes connected? And
absolutely. When people don't understand why they're lost or why do I feel like this is subconscious patterning. These are things that they don't even recognize stem from childhood or a situation, or even past life energies, being karma that we're trying to burn off. And that's why in the webinar as well, we're going to be doing techniques that are going to trigger. It'll trigger subconscious patterning to come up. So you might realize, oh my God, I know where this is coming from. And it's so old. Or you minimized it so long ago that it doesn't even phase you anymore. It's just part of who you are. So that's absolutely. Do you
don't recognize it anymore, where it's coming from. You just think that you think you're grumpy, old, unhappy 25-year-old that feels and acts like like someone who is 90 and has had the worst life, or no.
Yes. And I was actually thinking of doing some regression work in the webinar. I'm still debating, because when you do regression work, some people be very intense, so holding that space. If people are interested in that, adding that to the webinar, let me know. I can always do that as well. But it's deep seated, you're right.
You do this privately, but for example, I find it so hard to regress, to see something. I'm too in my mind, which is very hard to see images or to believe them or anything like that, while some people get those things pop up for them so clear. And someone very mental like me, like, is there a way for you to see where it's stemming from, or to give them I think that you also are psychic, and you can see when you listen about a relationship.
Yes.
Someone, you can understand where the problems are coming from, or the grief where it's coming from, or the repeating pattern. Is it a past lifetime? Is it something, you see this in a session with a person?
Yes, I can. I do that in my soul readings, my Reiki soul readings. I do it all the time, figuring out where this comes from. And it's going to be macro viewed. So it's not going to be because Dan or Sarah is like this. It'll be because we're bringing over codependency issues. We're bringing over low self-esteem, self-worth, because this happened, and this is the techniques to do it. So I do see that. And I always give my clients tools. Depending on their soul vibration, what would work best for them. Some things will work with some vibrations that will not work with others. So you'd have to really look at the energy signature to see how we can best move this out. And some people have patterns, and it's very, very frustrating, and I understand that, but that's why we have so many lives. It's not supposed to always be done in one lifetime. And when I do say regression, it will be guided. So I'm the same as you. I don't regress easily. If you're someone who doesn't regress easily because you're too mental, I would highly suggest gong and singing bowl meditations. You release from the body a lot easier. And you could have the regressions naturally.
Yeah, I should try that.
Yes, very effective.
Can I ask you also something? What is the most ingrained and difficult type of grief to overcome?
I would say anything that causes post-traumatic stress. So anyone who has PTSD, whether it's from war or trauma in childhood, someone who could have been extremely abused, those are the hardest ones. Only because your psyche, and when I say this, I'm just using as like a description, is cracked. There's a disconnect now in the psyche. So it takes a lot of work to mend it and bring it back. It's trauma. It's usually very physical trauma. And it has to hit an emotional way. So anybody who suffers from PTSD, that tends to be the hardest grief but it's not impossible. It just takes, we have a lot of work in together to pull it back. to pull it back. It's doable. I've done it. I've seen it done by other people too. I work with veterans as well. So anybody, veterans out there too, who are going through grief, if you've done something, if you feel guilty, this would be good for you too. Let's move through it. But that's the most, it's because this is damage to the psyche. And as it happened as a child, we repress.
They say it's like fragmentation of the soul, basically, that happens.
Yeah. Yes. We have to call the pieces out. Everyone's
in Project Monarch, many people probably know that, but the government experimented how to dissociate. It started in little children because it's the easiest when you abuse little children. To the body, the soul leaves the body and starts watching as if from above. When someone is going through extreme physical and emotional pain and fear, this happens, and what started happening is split personalities. And of course, we in our daily life, we don't have it to this extreme, but we have some kind of compartmentalized parts of ourselves, of a little child that are locked there, or that is like a fragment of our soul that is locked in the past and is not coming with us in this reality, in this vibrational time, because it's hurt, it's too little, it doesn't know how to cope with it. And doesn't understand that if you're already grown up, you're a mature person, you overcome that. So you have to, there are techniques to heal that, to coax back that little part of you that is traumatized and fearful, that has dissociated. But in extreme cases, this is how they create people that obey orders and have split personalities, but that's a totally different topic of conspiracy.
It's a good topic. That's actually a great topic. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Especially when they're younger, your psyche will close down because it can't take the pain. So a lot of people, for instance, we mentioned that are grumpy or irritable at pain. So a lot of them have memories that are locked. Now, during Reiki, during healing sessions, this will tend to pop up, and then all the sources come out. But yes, especially as children, you're right, we compartmentalize, we block it, we put it away because that's the only way to survive. That's the only way. Their children's psyches are so delicate. It's the only way they do that. And when you do work like this, it really does take full participation of the person because of free will. So we're going to pull things back together and we're going to heal and open up some doors. The person has to be a part of it. They have to give permission and work with it. Otherwise, it's locked down. Not one, to be an infringement of your free will, but two, it takes them to be willing. So it's very one-on-one. That kind of work is very one-on-one.
It's wonderful. And I'm glad that the higher realms, that those beings that take care of us, or if you think higher consciousness, has sent us those techniques, because we're quite damaged as humans.
Yeah.
Everyone has trauma. I had a great childhood, but in my 20s I went through some things that are not normal and that are quite painful. But while I was going through them, because you're trying to survive, exactly like you said, I did not feel the pain. And then when I stopped, when I didn't have to do those things, or I was out of that life, this is when it took me. This is when it smashed me. I was living a very normal, all of a sudden, what everyone would expect would be a happy life. And it kind of hit me at the start of my 30s, that this grieving process, because while you're in the middle of it, you try to survive. You're basically, then when you're in normal circumstances, like your body or the soul gives you permission to start releasing that pain, and you wonder why you are overwhelmed by those feelings, and you wonder why you start just breaking down emotionally. And I realized that my whatever it is was saving me when I was back then, so I can go through this tough period without breaking down. And then when it felt I'm safe, it started releasing these feelings, because in a safe environment I can cope with them more rationally and safely. So yeah, for some it might be something, even if it's not something recent, but something that you're wondering, why am I feeling like that? But maybe in a stage where now you can heal. That's why it's coming to the surface, this purification.
Yes. And if I can put a disclaimer out there, I know we talked about it's good to grieve and it's good to cry it out, but if anybody out there is in a grief period that's very depressive, very traumatic, and I know we mentioned just have at it, but in that particular arena, I would definitely be doing that in conjunction with somebody, whether that's a hotline or a counselor, a life coach, a healer, a therapist, whatever it is, do it in conjunction, because if you're already depressed, we don't want to aggravate that scenario. Just FYI, that's just like a little side disclaimer. Just anybody going through that.
They actually say that when you're depressed, when you're in a very low state, you don't even have the energy to harm yourself. Once anger, which is the step up feeling, awake
Yeah.
out of this depression, this is when you can do something to harm yourself. It's a
Yeah.
anger is higher vibration than depression, because in depression you've given up, but anger uh, is
It's
what,
action oriented.
yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And and ironically, anger is also the same space that'll help push you to do something in a positive sense. So it's just having a nice balance between
Yes.
healthy motivation here. So, but yes, absolutely. And what your experience, go back there, that's very common, especially if it's something traumatic. Sometimes you have to wait a second to your environment. Your soul knows when it's right. An environment that's safe enough to open up. It's safe enough to be like, okay, I'm in a good space to look at this. Because if you have to do it in a certain point in the trauma, it might actually fragment you further or deepen you further or block you in some way. So that happens a lot. So if that's your case, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone's journey is different.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's I think, guys, if you are in such situation now, if you want to join, the power of the group, just like Jesus said, when two or three are hearing my name, but when two or three people sit together on a mutual cause, the energy multiplies
Yes.
progressively, geometrically. And the power of the group, just like that's why groups like AA work for many people, And
Yes,
so,
it's a collective energy when two or more are gathered. I always say that. So it's even in healing groups, it's so good. So even coming together, even if we're not in the same space, it's the same intention and we're gathering the same energy. There is no space or time for that matter. But it's great. So, and I know we have ceremony in the title, but it is very interactive for people if that's something that they want. And I want to ask Lada, so what did you do when you processed that out, that old trauma that came into your present life? What were your techniques that you used?
Okay, that's a great question. First of all, I had a very supportive partner at that time, and I just cried, and I'll go and he'll cuddle me, and as you said, you have someone to support, and I'll tell him what happened. It's because you need to share. That was because I was ashamed. I was feeling as a horrible person about those things, and just sharing it with someone helps. And I was sharing my fears and my fears of unworthiness and all those things. That was one of the things that helped, having the safe environment to open up. And also I was studying astrology. That's what esoteric side, and I was praying. For me, prayers helped a lot. I was saying rosaries, and I started having even panic attacks at moments. And the rosary Saint Michael would help me. And I was doing tapping. Is that what you EFT?
Yes, EFT. Yep, EFT.
That really it touches on certain
pressure points. It reroutes the cortisol that's released from the amygdala, and it reroutes it through the body. So I'll be doing that in the webinar as well. I'll be doing.
These are some of the things that helped me. I read a lot of inspirational and spiritual books, and I talked with friends. We talked about spirituality. We talked about finding meaning and purpose. But I was grieving throughout this, and then at one day it just stopped. It carried on for 2 or 3 years, this period, and I was like, why is it not getting better? At moments, for a little bit, and then one day it just went away, and I just forgotten about it, and I was like, okay, thank you, God.
Yes, and and I love it too. I always tell people, pray, whatever you believe in, whatever you call it, God, angels, Bob, it doesn't matter. Just having a faith and just pulling it up. That's extremely important, because sometimes we put all on ourselves and it's not. And I love what you said, that one day it just stopped. I just forgotten about it. Believe it, what we focus on grows. So it's not meaning that you want to be in grief. It doesn't mean that you want to be in pain. And it's okay if we're working through it. But the more you kind of don't think about it anymore, the energy around it shrinks and it releases out. That's why when you focus on something, whatever it is, it's quantum mechanics, it expands. So this really helps to redirect the energy. Those are all great. All of the things you did, those are perfect.
For me, my horoscope in particular, I have Saturn conjunct the 8th house, because these people grieve much longer. The 8th house is how you overcome trauma and crisis. And when Saturn is there, you're very resistant to cross the bridge. So I'm one of those really difficult cases for anything, for addictions, for changes of any sort. But most people are not like that. And most people can have sudden change around and transformation. And I've seen it happen, and I've seen it with using just some of the techniques that it can happen for them much faster, or even some I think we spoke in a previous interview about taking a black onyx stone and putting it under your
Yes.
pad your during your period, if you don't have a period, on a decreasing moon, and it soaks out the blood and it takes out the energy of someone you had sexual intercourse with, that you still are connected with, and you carry, and then you throw out the stone and bury it somewhere,
Yeah.
but
Very.
and that helped me as well a lot. And people are writing to me from around the world. They say I did it and it worked. It worked for the first time. But some people like me who are more like, who also, it didn't help that I liked soaking in those. I was enjoying feeling sorry for myself, like you said.
Yeah, you're attached to it.
Yeah.
You identify with it. It becomes our story, and somehow we get something out of it, whether it's attention or whichever, a false sense of, importance. Even the victimization, it gives us an excuse. And
Yeah.
we hold on to it. Yeah, and I'm one of those too, Lada. I drive something into the ground so I can't drive it anymore. Some people can let go very easily. I'm not one of those either.
Yes, I wish, but that's why we're trying to help others who are stubborn like us.
Yes, yeah, right. It doesn't have to be
You feel
as bad.
like you're caught up in a trap. You don't know how to stop this repeating thoughts. One other thing that helped me a lot is outspeak daily almost with people who are having similar issues, with worse problems than me. And it's not like you feel better because there are people that are worse than you, but somehow helping another person, it's
Yep.
it's resolving your pain. I don't understand how it works, but you forget about your own pain and you help someone else. And these are, in Vedic astrology, these are pujas for basically for overcoming difficult astrological positions. For example, someone that has a really painful love life, for example, Saturn in the seventh house or whatever, or with Venus, they're told to help people with much worse relationship problems. And then whatever your problem is, help someone in the same situation, and that helps resolve whatever it is, you call it karma or trauma or pain, and gets it.
That's so funny you said that. I have a debilitated Jupiter in my Capricorn, and this is my area of that I always focus on when people always come to me with marriage, or why haven't I found somebody, or what's going on in my relationship, or heartbreak. So I'm doing my puja, doing my work.
Yes, that's
So it's true. When you focus on somebody else, it's because you get into heart alignment. And when you're in heart alignment, that's a love alignment, which vibrates much higher by tenfold over pain and fear. So we do that. It's not so much that, and it is, your pain does go away, because when you vibrate higher, everything else around you either has to meet it or it has to leave. And that's why you feel better. So when you're heart-centered and you're doing something of service, whether for a person or an animal or a cause, you're healing yourself. The vibration is healing the body. You're doing it for yourself.
This is brilliant. I'm getting goosebumps throughout this conversation.
That's great. You had such good insight. All the things that you did were wonderful, were perfect. It must have been really
subconscious, especially just for some reason, all my friends were having even shittier lives than me. And because I was starting astrology, and I was doing free horoscopes, and then I was just choosing the ones that had horrendous, very difficult charts to help them, because you can't give free charts to everyone. And and I was learning through that, but all those friends with problems will come calling me love problems, so situations similar to mine. You don't have to go to to some kind of a charity. You can just look around in your life. Who is there that is also grieving and help on online? Look in a forum and give support. And
yes, absolutely. And I really encourage that. Just most people, when they're grieving, they don't want to. And I want to tell a lot of people, the thing that you most need to do is usually the thing you least want to do. You just have to push through and do it anyways. I always believe, I love how you had your support, your partner, your friends, because support is imperative. Someone to keep you accountable, someone to remind you. Whether you're in heartbreak grief over an ex-lover or you've lost a loved one, it's imperative. And some people don't have a lot of people around them, and that's okay. There's lots of free groups, hotlines, things that we can join. People are going through grieving, but we have to take that first step for ourselves. And that's why this webinar, I love it, because it's actually releasing the resistance out of our body so that we can do it. So many people try to go from feeling horrible to feeling happy. Don't do that. There's such a chasm in energetic vibration. Just go from not feeling happy to feeling okay. to feeling decent. Don't try to, because they try to jump so far, they just don't try at all. Like I'm so far from happy. And you will be.
With drugs, that's how addictions start happening. That's, you know, such periods.
Yeah, or alcohol. And alcohol is a depressant. It makes things worse. And you still are going to have to pick it up from where you left it off when you come down.
Yeah, it's funny how they say people, once they stop drinking, they might be 40 years old, but if they started at 16, their maturity is of a 16-year-old.
Yeah, the development stops. It really does. And I understand, I don't judge anybody for their course or where you're at, but you know, now we can take it from here. And I noticed too in a lot of readings, and maybe you've noticed too, Lada, a lot of people are shifting forward in a lot of creative ways, really aligning with who they are. So that's why they're getting rid of people that don't vibrate. They're moving out of houses. They're changing locations completely. And I feel this is really good for a lot of people. They're really stepping into higher alignment with themselves. And things like this, these like low vibrating attachments can kind of inhibit. So this can help people too. Even if you guys have a little bit left over, if you're not sure why you feel so scared or so terrified, this can also help to cut and release. So you can.
What about addictions? Can it help if you have not physical, mental addictions to anything even? It might be that you're not physically addicted, but you kind of think, oh, I can't do without this substance or this smoke or drink or whatever. It's
this particular webinar that's something a lot more focused. So this one's a little bit more generalized, and it can help. If anything helps in this way, when it comes to mental patterns, these are well-treaded neural pathways in the brain, very well treaded. So this would take more than just a webinar. This will definitely take, I mean, this is something that could definitely help you, but you would have to consistently do it over, you know, a period of, you know, 4 to 6 weeks to really, and it takes a lot of determination. It's totally doable, absolutely doable. And I can give you some sets and tools in the webinar, but that's something a little different. When it comes to like neuro-linguistic programming, there are techniques, but it's a little bit more specified to the mental body. So this one's a little bit energetic, emotional, and we are going to be using aspects of our mental body, but we're going to be moving energy. So it's more for a focus, but it'll still help, but there are things you can do with that. That'll take, I would definitely suggest coaching. If anybody has mental obstructions like that, coaching is very, very good for you.
Thank you, Angelic. Yeah, and guys, if you want a personal reading with Angelic, she uses psychic abilities. She's great at relationships and heartbreak. She's also, you're also a special trauma.
I work with so I work with traumas. I do work with sex trafficking survivors. I work with people with PTSD. I work with a wide spectrum of people. So I am a healer, a chronic healer. I'm a Reiki healer. I'm a psychic healer as well. So we do a lot of realignment. I do tarot reading and soul readings as well. So people always have a question between tarot and soul. Soul is macro. So I'll talk to you about why you incarnated, your service, your life purpose, any past lives that are bearing down, and we're going to go through the body. And tarot is micro focus. So we can focus on career. We can focus on specific questions regarding love and direction. So they're a little different.
Yes. So if you want, Angelic is AA, too many A's. Angelic is probably one of the best and most popular reader. And I wouldn't call it reader, you're a healer as well on the website. So you can contact her, or if you want to be part of this webinar, guys, this is a healing ceremony and techniques, psychological, magical, scientific techniques of break. Check out the links below. And thank you so much, Angelic. I love your nails. You're ready.
Oh, thank you. Gonna get them changed out. Thank you.
Soul traction.
Yeah, I needed the vibrancy for this holiday season. I'll be changing them out soon. Thank you, though. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Cord cutting with your nails.
Right? I do that all the time, yes.
Thank you so much. Have a great holidays, guys, ahead.
Hi, you guys have good holidays. Hopefully I see you guys there.
Bye-bye.
Bye.